Good afternoon, I'm Herman Green with the Midday News. A special welcome to those of you watching on onespotmedia.com. A reminder as well that you can download our One Spot Media app in the Google Play Store or the App Store. That's the number 1, followed by the word Spot Media. A second escapee from the Linstead lockup in St. Catherine yesterday has been recaptured. He is 22-year-old Daniel James of Troja, St. Catherine, who is facing a rape charge. The police say he was held about 7:30 this morning. Another escapee, Alwayne Shakespeare, was recaptured shortly after the jailbreak in the Linstead market. Those at large are 28-year-old Ezroy Cohen and 24-year-old Damian Daly. Both are of a Banbury address in Linstead. Cohen is charged with burglary and rape, while Daly is charged with arson. The other escapees are 29-year-old Anthony Jarrett of Mountain Pass, Linstead, and Churchpen, Old Harbour, and 25-year-old Shane Wellington of Cassava Pond, Ewaton in St. Catherine. Both are charged with murder. The Linstead police say they went to make checks about 9:30 yesterday morning and discovered that the inmates had escaped. TVJ News has been informed that investigators have discovered that one of the firearms taken from the body of wanted man Marlon Duppyfilm Perry, who was killed by the police a month ago, belonged to a licensed firearm holder. The police are now investigating the firearm holder, trying to ascertain how his gun ended up in Perry's possession. According to information reaching TVJ News, the firearm was not reported lost or stolen. It's understood that the Firearm Licensing Authority, FLA, has taken an interest in the matter. Duppyfilm was fatally shot by the police on September 24 during an operation in Port Morant, St. Thomas. 2 pistols and an AK-47 rifle were recovered. Security Minister Robert Montague has reiterated his call for all Jamaicans to get involved in efforts to reduce the country's crime rate. The details from TVJ's O'Shane Masters.
Crime has been a major challenge for successive governments of the 2 main political administrations. But the Holness-led administration, since taking office, has been lambasted for not having an outright plan to deal with crime. However, the Security Minister in Parliament last week pointed out that the Prime Minister will be outlining their plans to tackle the crime monster. But speaking earlier this week at a scholarship awards ceremony, the minister issued another call for a united effort to deal with crime.
But the crime that is besetting careers is not a gunman putting a gun to somebody's head or kicking off your door. It's somebody bringing in counterfeit cigarettes and selling it into the Jamaican marketplace. Cigarettes that don't meet certain standards and come in through the back door and therefore rob the government of revenue. And it is that revenue that is invested into our colleges and into our universities. It is that revenue that fixes our roads. It is that revenue that is invested into the health infrastructure.
He says it must be noted that there is a major hindrance to productivity because of crime, as at least 5% of the country's GDP is lost due to criminal activities.
Which translates into $68 billion. $68 billion. But a lot of persons, because a gunman never kick off your door and put a gun in your face, you claim that crime don't affect you. But it does. Because it costs the hospitals $400,000 per day to keep one gunshot victim in intensive care.
Minister Montague pointed out that the amount of money that's been taken away because of crime could be put to much greater use, which would benefit a wider cross-section of the country.
That $68 billion that crime is costing us is enough to build 30 more hospitals and equip them at first world standards.
He, however, had this message.
A lot of us can criticize and tell us what is wrong with Jamaica. But few of us take time and pause and enumerate what is right about Jamaica. My call is for the good people of Jamaica to unite. My call is for you as youngsters to unite. For you as youngsters to apply your brains, to come up with new thoughts, new ideas, to question some of the things that we call normal.
O'Shane Masters, TVJ News.
A man was fatally shot at the Portmore Police Station guard room yesterday. The police report that the man entered the building and started behaving boisterously. They say 3 attempts were made by 2 officers to calm him down or have him leave, but the man refused to comply. According to the report, The man then advanced towards one of the officers who was armed with a pepper spray. The officer sprayed the man, who then pulled a knife from his waistband and attacked the officer. The cop pulled his service pistol and fired one shot, hitting the man. The cops say the man continued to attack the officer with the knife, and the officer fired 2 more shots at him. The injured man eventually left through the main door and collapsed across the parking lot of the station. He was taken to the Spanish Town Hospital by the police, where he was pronounced dead. A suggestion has come for some of the overstaffed workers at the state-run Jamaica Urban Transit Company, JUTC, to be deployed to other government agencies where their skills are needed. This follows a disclosure by JUTC Managing Director Paul Abrahams at Wednesday's Public Administration and Appropriations Committee that the bus entity is overstaffed. Mr. Abrahams noted that the company has 300 more workers than what is needed to run its operations, which is costing the cash-strapped company to spend an additional $25 million per month to pay the extra employees. Chairman of the Private Sector Organization of Jamaica, PSOJ, Dennis Chung, said it is good that the company is undertaking a rationalization exercise to reduce the number of extra workers. However, Mr. Chung said at the end of the exercise, the additional workers should not be left out of a job. Persons have traveled from as far as St. Mary, Westmoreland, Hanover, and St. Elizabeth to take advantage of free healthcare services being administered in Montego Bay, St. James this week. This as the Atlanta-Montego Bay Sister City Committee enters its 24th year of giving free healthcare to Jamaicans. The 3-day health fair started this week at the St. John's Methodist Church Action Center. A team of 50 persons consisting of doctors, nurses, dentists, and other medical practitioners attended to some 500 persons on Monday. Residents say they traveled the far distances to receive health care along with medication that they would normally have to purchase.
To the local clinic, then you have to leave and go to the town to get your medication. You don't get it at the same time.
Me do me pressure and then say, all right, me go back and tell the lady that me allergy. And he said, me must come back tomorrow, 8 o'clock in the morning. So I prepare to come 8 o'clock in the morning tomorrow.
In Jamaica's healthcare system, Dr. Yvonne Smith says most persons with chronic diseases cannot afford the medication.
Very good health care. What we found is people with chronic diseases such as diabetes, hypertension, eye problems such as glaucoma, and the thing that we see is that they've seen doctors, but most of the times they can't afford the medications that are necessary to continue their care. And so for those, we tend to supply them with medicines for at least 3 months, longer if we have the medicines.
The government has suggested that it may have to extend its intervention to assist local coffee farmers. Permanent Secretary in the Agriculture Ministry, Donovan Stanbury, believes it is a necessity at this time to protect the coffee industry's long-term viability. The industry was thrust into panic recently after a major trader in Japan refused to enter into new contracts with local producers because of high prices. Agriculture Minister Carl Samuda announced that the government would provide $80 million to help coffee farmers resuscitate their farms. The farms will also be provided with fertilizers, fungicides, tools, and training. Mr. Stanbury states that since its initial intervention, more information has surfaced which demonstrates that intervention needs to continue.
I think we have to look on the coffee industry long term because there is also another angle. We have been talking since we started this conversation about Blue Mountain coffee. There's a matter of non-Blue Mountain or High Mountain coffee, which quality is equally very good, but we have seen a precipitous decline in the production of High Mountain coffee. At the same time, what used to happen is that we used to use the High Mountain coffee and blend with cheaper coffee for local consumption and send all the Blue Mountain high-quality coffee in the export markets.
After almost fully recovering from the devastation caused by the beet armyworm several months ago, Escalon farmers in New Forest, Manchester are contending with another infestation by the pests. Farmers are calling for the Rural Agricultural Development Authority, RADA, and the Ministry of Agriculture to urgently come to their assistance before the problem worsens. A woman is seeking to help build a house for her family after her home was destroyed 1 year ago by a massive landslide in Bellevue, Portland. Here's TVJ's Nick Dawkins with the details.
Last year, October, heavy rains triggered a number of landslides which affected residents in Bellevue, Portland. One resident was left homeless. Now, 1 year later, Marlene Mackenzie still has nowhere to live. She's yet to receive assistance after her home was destroyed by the landslides. Ms. Mackenzie almost lost her life along with her 2-year-old son. She said no one has reached out to her since the disaster took place.
I don't cope good because from this disaster happened to me, nobody responds to me. Nobody call me or come to me and say, Marlene, you go get so and so. Right now when I'm there, people put up me and they want them place and I don't have nowhere to go.
Ms. Mackenzie said she has submitted her contact information to the Ministry of Labour and Social Security, but no response yet.
I mean, not get no response. All them I say, it take a time. Me soon get through. That's all them I tell me. They not give me no good talk.
She's extremely concerned as the owner of the house she's staying in will soon need the property.
My husband brother dead, so me really stressed out and I don't know what to tell myself. We do everything and I'm not get nothing all no. Me do docket, paperwork for lease land and me not get nothing all no. Nothing me not get. When me da put the house, there's a crack, so the house cannot go there. Me have to go look at the next place to put the house.
Nick Dawkins, TVJ News.
The hearing into the election petition brought against Jamaica Labour Party councillor for the Yalas division, Dean Jones, resumed in the Supreme Court this morning following a 2-month break. More from TVJ's Anthony Lugg.
By Dean Jones in last November's local government election is contending that Mr. Jones did not live in the parish for a stipulated period as required by law and is therefore unfit to serve in the St. Thomas Municipal Corporation. Mr. Jones, who defeated Mr. Bogle by 125 votes, has dismissed those claims. The court is to determine whether Mr. Jones lived in Yalas and whether he was a civil servant when he was elected. At the last sitting in July, Administrator at the Coroner's Court, Janet Morgan Rogers, testified that Mr. Jones handed her his resignation letter on December 12 last year. However, when she was called to the witness stand this morning, she told the court that she was unable to locate the document. When asked by attorney...
And we do apologize for the break in that story. In international news, the United States President Donald Trump is taking his first steps to fulfill his vow to dismantle Obamacare. President Trump today signed an executive order that he says will bring affordable health insurance to millions more people. We go to the CNN for more.
Great health care, cross state lines. People can buy it, will cost the government nothing. You'll go out. Private insurers are going to give you incredible health care. And I'll tell you what, this will take, and I can sign it myself. I don't need anybody. I would have done it earlier, except I was hoping that they were going to put this through and I'd have it in the bill. But we're signing tomorrow a health care package that will cover, I don't know, people say 30%, people say 25%, and some people say it could be 50%. It's going to cover a large percentage of the people.
It shows a president who is defying his own party, which couldn't get her health care repeal done, who's trying to stay true to a campaign promise to repeal and replace Obamacare, that wades into a policy area that is fraught at the very least. Not only the consideration about how insurance companies will ultimately charge, but who gets into that pool. This fundamental question of, do you have enough young, healthy people who are buying into a national program that will ultimately keep prices down?
And we go now to sports. ISA competitions officer George Forbes has hit out at the recent decision by Monroe College to ask for a change of time for their ISA Flo Da Costa Cup first round match against rivals St. Elizabeth Technical on September 30, that is. The match was originally advertised as a night match, but Monroe had the time shifted because of concerns about playing under the lights at Stets. For Forbes, Mr. Forbes says the Monroe team knew about the conditions of the match from well in advance and that efforts were made to make them more comfortable playing under the lights at Stets.
On the lights, what you need to do is go to Stets, tell Stets you want a training session on the lights, and they will oblige you. They decided on the 11th minute, 11th hour, that no, we're not going to play we have not agreed to play on the lights at Stets.
Meanwhile, Forbes also spoke about why ISA continues to use the Constant Spring field for second-round matches in the Manning Cup despite complaints about the playing surface at the venue.
Parents do not want us to go to Tivoli. Well, Tivoli is not available anymore. They want us to go to Waterhouse. They want us to go to
why not?
Say, for example, Charles Smith is playing a champion. The champion will have a problem going to Arnett.
Yes.
But in the second round, we're more is at stake. They from whatever reason, and a singular champion, but most of the schools are saying they don't want to go to Arnett.
And that's the Midday News. I'm Herman Green. Join us at 7 for the Primetime News Package. On behalf of the news, sports, and production teams, good afternoon.